IDW Sonic Comic Issue 24. I started out the story wondering why Sonic let himself be so covered in the Metavirus when he had to get to Tangle's village by running in the first place. He sees Cream and Tails handling the evacuation, with Cream looking depressed, and that makes the fact that she's willing to try to save people all the more impressive. With the way she was being portrayed earlier, I thought she'd do literally nothing to save people and all she'd do is miss her loved ones. I'd rather see her do this than see her serve people tea or something, just like in the reboot. Sonic wants to check in with Amy and see what he can do, and then sees that Espio needs backup. Why? Is Espio bothering to throw sharp objects at the Robians when he learned that they could regenerate from getting hit by them earlier? He's just wasting his weapons on them. They're not gonna run away from him. Can't he just run away or climb away? It doesn't look like he should need saving. Why would he just stand there? Instead, Sonic moves around him in a blue blur to save him. I guess Espio's gonna get roboticized this issue since he's so in focus now. Why does he feel like saying heh when saying that their numbers have grown thin? That's not funny. So he's fighting the town by himself. Why did they think he could do anything like that when they regenerate from getting hit by his thrown weapons, and he can't directly attack them without getting infected? How are they that stupid? It's too bad the heroes don't all have hammers of their own to attack with indirectly. But to be fair, they didn't think they'd need them. But Tails could have made them. It's too bad they never went to a forest and went to get a giant stick for all of them. Espio says Amy and General are watching the escape shuttle, and he recaps to the audience. He says that while he thought they had Charmy contained, he knew better, and yet he let the stupid thing happen anyways? At least he admits he made a mistake, but still. Cathartically, Espio says, "Just like I shouldn't have let you convince me to leave Eggman and Windmill Village." So based on what happened to Shadow, is his inevitable roboticization going to be a failed attempt at punishing him for saying this? Because Shadow said the same thing that happened to him. I don't know why the writer would disagree with Espio here, because he's clearly right. While Mr. Tinker deserved a second chance, it doesn't change the fact that it was inevitable that he'd go back to normal, and they had no proof he wasn't lying. As Sonic keeps just standing here and making me wonder why he hasn't transformed yet with the Metavirus spreading on him, he insists on belittling Espio's negativity, as if that's supposed to be a proper comeback. Too bad he can't just admit Espio was right. I guess the writer thinks that'd be too out of character. And yet make him an idiot who doesn't run off the Metavirus completely every time he's covered in it somehow isn't making him draw the line. Well, obviously if Sonic was that stupid in the games, Eggman would have killed him. I guess it seemed was worth it for getting Sonic called out on screwing the world over. But it's just more filler. After wasted time, he goes to Amy, who eventually says they've made a choke point so General and her can fight the Robians that do find them. And eventually the Robians will swarm them when they retreat. I guess the reason I was fine with calling him General and not Emerald was because he doesn't act anything like Emerald, so he might as well be a different person. Sonic offers to cover their escape and to find Tangle to see if she has any ideas. Tails tells him to wait, and Sonic happily greets Cream. Amy reveals that Vanilla held back the Robians so they could escape. She was doing that? I thought she was just another one of the people who got grabbed and held still by the Robians. If I was supposed to think she was trying to hold them still, that wasn't conveyed at all. I don't think she was in front of a hallway, or a door. She didn't come off like she was doing a heroic sacrifice. Because I didn't see her intentionally go to a place to block them from going somewhere and say that she was going to ensure the heroes could escape. Sonic apologizes to Tails for botching everything, at least calling him bro, and Tails admits sadly that without his lab or the headquarters, he wouldn't have been able to make a vaccine anyways. Being a very good friend by immediately forgiving him. Tails says he couldn't find anyone else to rescue, and the heroes decide to carry out the plans they wanted to. General tells Amy that he ran calculations on the level of infection Sonic exhibited and is higher than previous estimates should allow. No duh. We all noticed how much was covering him. So rather than saying that's because he attacked some Robians recently, and so of course he'd have a bunch on him now, General also a bullshit assumption that Sonic's speed is losing its ability to stop the virus. Did we really need that plot point? As if there hasn't been enough twists with the metal virus as it is? That doesn't make any sense. How could the newer nanobots have mutated so that they'd be immune to breaking apart from Sonic's G-force and high-speed wind? If they have less iron in them, why would they be stronger? I'm just exhausted at this point. It was already a foregone conclusion that he'd get roboticized eventually because he can only stay awake so long. So we didn't need this confusing Diabolos Ex Machina bullshit. What is the likelihood that the barricade Robians that he got his latest metal virus from would have the most mutated form of it? Or the Robians from this place? I guess if even walled-in Robians weren't following Eggman's orders for the most part, that means they weren't infected from him pouring the metal virus from the spaceship on the town. So the people there really were infected by later Robians that climbed the walls from the outside. Too bad all the people who got infected from Eggman pouring the stuff on their town directly wandered off, so Sonic can't get cured of this problem by fighting the oldest Robians again. If Eggman had infected Cream's village directly, poured the metal virus onto it that was directly from the spaceship, how the hell did it result in Robians who didn't want to obey his orders? The Robians there didn't get infected by Robians from Windmill Village. They weren't infected with metal virus that would have had the time to have spread from person to person a whole bunch of times on the way to the village, and therefore logically end up mutating. How were they already mutated by the time they fell when all of it wasn't, immediately? If Eggman produced all that grey goo because he programmed a few nanobots to replicate and resulted in whole tubs of it, and I guess it was programmed so that they'd only replicate so much so that the whole spaceship wouldn't be full of metal virus, then wouldn't that mean he made metal virus airborne right away so he'd get so much of it? Then all of it would be, so that can't be it. This is so confusing to try to figure out. Why would the metal virus that was sent to the planet directly from the spaceship already be mutated when all of it at once wasn't? Weren't they all made from the same ingredients? Tangle stays joking in all of this, saying that she doesn't need help. Sonic and Tangle realize that the minute he stops causing a ruckus all over town, the Robians will head for the big noisy shuttle. Tangle is stupid enough to think Sonic can just pick her up without her getting infected. Shockingly, the next panel doesn't involve Sonic reminding her that if he touches her, he'll infect her. But I guess his gloves don't have it on them. Fine. She says she's gonna wrap her tail around one of the lampposts. Oh, now Sonic reminds her that he's infectious, after I was forced to read all that dialogue. Tangle says that she's already got that covered. She checked on her friend Jewel, but she was already infected and got the jump on her. And we didn't get to see that, for some reason. I didn't expect that. So even Tangle's considered expendable. But apparently the artist is favoritizing her because I can't see any metal virus on her at all. Why would the artist like Tangle more than Sonic? She says she's been holding back, trying to keep from turning too fast. What makes her think she can delay it? Sonic apologizes, and finally says that it is his fault for not listening to Shadow and for letting Metal Sonic go. She wouldn't know about him letting Metal Sonic go, so wouldn't she be confused and mad? Also, how would he know that Eggman seeing Metal Sonic was what got his memory back? I guess I'm supposed to know that Starline told him that off screen while the story had cut away to showing Eggman testing the metal virus. Tangle protects Sonic from a Robian behind him, and once again, someone annoyingly defends Sonic's decision with Mr. Tinker to try to get in the way of Sonic finally learning his lesson. And maybe getting Eggman infected himself at the end. That'd be a great final act. Like for when he's about to be roboticized. Tangle puts her tail around a bunch of stuff, planning on sending Sonic away, and she says Whisper's gonna take it pretty hard. Sonic thanks her for everything. They hug, which must have meant a lot to Sonic, who hasn't gotten to have any infection since he got infected. Whisper takes the news the worst of all and wants to run after Tangle, even though she's obviously infected and it's too late now. Sonic can't help Amy, and Whisper says don't, but then Amy says let's go and runs towards the shuttle bridge while there's someone in black boots in front of her. So, is Whisper in the shuttle or not? Because her getting herself infected would be an idiot ball. The shuttle leaves, our time is wasted as we see what became of Tangle, which clearly wasn't necessary. And Whisper cries on the shuttle as Cream has her hand on her head, comforting her. Meanwhile, Starlight tells Eggman he's found a solution to the problem of not being able to control the Robians. Eggman says he'll get around to a solution and says to stop pestering him about it. When you'd think someone who wants no more free will would have been working on it as soon as possible, and a genius would have already figured it out. Starlight uses his warp topaz, and then the story ends with him saying he insists, well, it looks like there's Zombot versions of the Zeti behind him, and therefore how are they supposed to help them? Or are they still able to control the Robians and they're just infected with an unmutated version of the Metavirus that does have you obey Eggman's orders? Or is this just bad art and they are the real colors? How confusing. We already knew the Zeti would be recruited by Starline, so why would they keep it a surprise? This issue is by Ian Flynn, and thankfully didn't get rid of Espio, and instead had Tango get roboticized. But not Whisper. Why get rid of the character with a nicer personality? I mean, Espio's boring. Whisper miraculously didn't get infected, even though at one point she was clearly trying to run after Tangle. But all of a sudden she ended up back on the shuttle and she was just fine. I guess she was still on the ramp when she tried to run away, and the shuttle lifted up and the ramp closed and brought her into the shuttle. They should have illustrated that. So good, the writer was at least merciful enough to not have Whisper get killed because of an idiot bull. And we didn't see how Tangle got infected. But based on what she said, it wasn't because she was an idiot either. A Robian got the jump on her. So, the original character to IDW that Flynn created got the best written not death scene. I have a hard time understanding how he works. He still wants to do this to her, but didn't rush the writing this time. I guess while he does think she's expendable, he just got lucky in writing this well this time. Even a broken clock is right twice a day. Because I don't see why he'd hate Tangle. And he didn't force this to happen to her. It makes sense. So for once I took this seriously. It didn't come off like he wanted a character roboticized so badly that he forced it to happen. But he must have wanted it a little if he made it happen. I think he believes that he has to get someone roboticized every issue. Or almost every issue. Because it's the only way the issue can seem like it has relevance, because that's all he feels like writing to make his story relevant when it's not the very end of the arc yet. He has no creative ideas of his own that give an issue relevance, and would rather just milk the arc for all it's worth and coast by on the fact that he can just repeat the same ending with almost every issue, except it's a different character every time. This always seemed like a pretty easy arc to write, considering how repetitive its formula is. Tangle's fate seemed to be written reluctantly, like he thought it was obligatory, mainly because we didn't even see when she got infected, and she looks just fine until the end, as if the writer was squeamish about it. That makes it look like she's his favorite character when compared to all the others who got infected for much dumber reasons. The same can be said for Jewel, actually. I never thought we wouldn't even get to see how she got infected. I thought that trying to save her and failing would be the plot because she's the one who called Tangle back home. But that strikes me more as apathy from the writer. Not even trying to make Jewel matter, because we never see her okay in the issue, and there's just one panel where she's a Robian. Who knows how it happened to her? Can't she fly? Isn't she a bug creature? Also, Starlight seems a bit stupid and self-destructive by the surprise ending. But it only had one panel, and that's not enough to go on to rant about it yet.